Welcome to the Peace and Possibilities Podcast, the best place to learn all about how successful, happy people found work doing what they love. Thanks for listening. Okay, so thanks everyone for joining. I'm here with Carin Rockind. And for those of you, I'm going to let Carin tell more about her story in just a second, but I met Carin when it was actually 3 years ago. I was listening to a radio show and she was a purpose coach on this radio show. And if Carin wants to talk more about that, I'll let her. It was the first time I ever heard her speak. And she actually said, sign up for my newsletter or website or something. And if I pick your name or something like that, you get a free coaching session. And I won. Or I won after I joined something else, I forget. But I had this 30-minute conversation with you, Carin. I don't know if you remember it, 3 years ago in October. And the reason I'm talking to you now is because that was part of my initial journey to what I'm doing now. I had this conversation with you and I was getting rumblings of wanting to do something different and wanting to do something bigger and better. And I didn't know what it was. And in 30 minutes of a conversation with you, you were telling me what you were seeing. And I never heard anyone reflect back to me clearly how well you did it, to say, Julie, when you were explaining what you really loved, you were open, you sat up straighter, you were excited. When you were just telling me about your current job, you were shrinking, your shoulders went down. I'm like, oh my gosh, I never even considered what you're saying right now. And you saw it so clearly. It was so succinct. And then it was just like, oh, well, that's going to bring me excitement. Why would I go towards that thing that's giving me excitement? Which is why I am where I am now today, because I started doing more of that and asking the right questions and making connections where I could. And you are a huge part of that. So I just wanted to thank you.
Oh, that means so much to me. Thank you, Julie.
Oh, and the reason I'm talking to you now, I'm getting emotional. And every time I have these conversations, I get emotional because I think I'm where I'm supposed to be in my focus because of you. And I wanted to, you're one of those people that loves, you love what you do, people do, as soon as they talk to you, because you're so excited and energized about it and want people to have purpose in their lives. And that's one of your major goals. And I have that now. And I want other people to have that, because I want them to have it just like you do as soon as they can get it, because your life's so much better when you have it. Yes. So I want to talk to you about, so you are successful in so many areas now with your career. And I know that you made this transition about 10 years ago to coaching and all of the things you do with Purpose Girls. And I know that before that you were in corporate America and marketing, and you were successful there. And I just wanted to say, like, right now in your life, you're so happy with what you're doing. And you were happy before, but you didn't, a little at a time it was breaking down. You weren't as happy, but you were still successful. Why do you think you became successful early on like you did, and then transferring that to what you're doing now?
Such a good question. Thank you, Julie. I'm so excited for you and what you're doing, and beyond. It just thrills me. The thing I have always found that helped me be successful was being myself. Right. So I happen to be a naturally gregarious, energetic person. And I found that when I was in a company that didn't want that, then I wasn't as successful. But when I could be somewhere where I could really be myself and I really knew who I was and I really understood my own strengths, I was more successful. With that, there was a huge piece then what I started to get really interested in is purpose. Because I found that when I was doing something that was in alignment, that was fulfilling to me, where I felt like I was making a difference, where I felt like I was making an impact, I was even more successful. Right. And so, but when I was doing some of the menial tasks, like I was in marketing for an automotive for most of my career because I'm from Detroit. And when you're in Detroit, that's what you do. Right. So at least it's what you used to do. And so when I was working on projects that weren't in alignment with my strengths, that weren't my purpose, I wasn't as successful. And I remember one day I was working for a huge Fortune 50 company in the automotive industry. And I needed to hire someone in my team. And I hired this guy, Brian, and he shows up his first day of work and he has this box that he like happily carries into our building, puts it on his desk and starts unpacking. He's got a car calendar. He's got a car picture frame of him and his family. Car this, car that, everything was cars. And I was like, I want to be like Brian. right? Like Brian is so jazzed to be here. Brian gets to be his full self here. Brian gets to do what he loves and is in alignment with his soul. He's living his purpose here. It's clear. This is his thing.
Mhm.
And I thought, I want to be like Brian, the guy I had just hired, right? And so I really started to notice how many people were just kind of shuffling in and out of their day. And what if, I just asked this question, what if each one of us was really living our true purpose? And the thing is, I think we all want to. I just think purpose is so misunderstood. People don't know what it is, how to find it. And so I just want to break down. So one is being yourself and being somewhere where you can be yourself and your own strengths. And then two is really what is in alignment with what's meaningful and your purpose. And then the three is attitude and mindset. And we could dive into those in any combination.
Mm. Yeah, there's so much, obviously, to what you're saying. We could talk about it. We could have several hours of conversations about all the stuff you just mentioned. It's so tough to break it down. Everything you just said, all of the things I've heard you say and read that you've written, I don't know if I've ever heard you say it like that with the being yourself. I wasn't expecting you to say that, so I'm glad I didn't know that's what you were going to say. I was going to say something else, but it's so true. If you're not being yourself and you can't use the gifts and the strengths that you have, and you have to kind of curtail them or switch them around, it makes perfect sense that you wouldn't be successful. It's so clear and it's so well said. And yeah, I love the way you just said that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, you won't be successful and you won't be happy, right? So the research is clear. I ended up, there were things about my prior career that I was happy in. Like it was very me when I was working on our corporate foundation. It was in alignment. It was on purpose. I loved actually working trade shows. Like I got to be the speaker, that's where I got to be like the kind of speaker and coach that I am, because I would work trade shows and really connect with people and be gregarious and cheerleader-like. And then there were pieces that weren't. And I ended up becoming really unhappy in my corporate career because I started to get a sense of this purpose and who am I and what am I all about and what do I want to do? What's my mark to make? What's my legacy? What's in alignment for me? And that's when I really started my journey of really stepping back to really figure that out. And it's why I've now developed a process to help other people like you figure it out. And then having the courage to go do it. It was a totally different story. So I can get into my story, or we could talk more about what purpose is.
Yeah. So I would love to know, when you're helping people, coach people like me about purpose, which you do so well, what's the first, so when you're talking to someone who's 20 or 30, maybe someone, I just turned 50, maybe someone a little bit younger that's trying to figure it out in school, just finished school. When you did that with me that day and you got to the issue so quickly and so clearly, what is it that helps you do that? I know that you are have training in this positive psychology and everything, and are educated in it. But what do you think is that when you help people so quickly? Why do you think that is, or what is it that just gets to it so quickly?
Yeah, good question. Because so many people out there, and it's interesting, we would think that this is really an issue for someone in their 20s because they're just out of school and I don't know, what do I really want to be when I grow up? But you know what? A lot of my clients are in their 20s and a lot more are in their 40s and 50s, and saying, oh, I followed a career. I did what I was supposed to do, but I'm not happy. Or I achieved, okay, I succeeded, but there feels like there's something missing, or I'm ready for the next thing. Or, someone is in their 50s and their kids now are growing up and they're like, but who am I now? Right. So this question, one of the things I'm seeing right now is like a purpose hunger epidemic. And we're actually seeing that people of all generations are really craving purpose, right? Boomers are retiring and they're saying, because we have longer life now, hey, there's still 20, 30 years left. I want to do something meaningful. Gen Xers like you and me, we're making the shift into something more meaningful because we've done the achievement thing. And then, millennials are looking at us and saying, hey, I prefer meaning over money, right? We're seeing that in studies by Deloitte and other companies. So the first step, so there are a lot of purpose myths out there, okay? And I think that those myths kind of screw us up. The first thing is that when someone starts it's how they define purpose. So I think most people are thinking that their purpose is going to be some sort of job title, right? Is my purpose to be a teacher? Is my purpose to be a writer? Is my purpose to be a podcaster? And in today's world, we don't want to be one thing, right? Many of us, Julie, you coach, you consult with organizations, you podcast, like we don't do one thing. Rather, it's the theme underneath that is the purpose. So we have to start changing our language around purpose. And so rather than thinking of purpose as any one noun, right? Like our parents or grandparents' generation, they had one thing for 30 or 40 years. It's not usually the case anymore. So rather than thinking of purpose as a noun, we need to think of it as a verb or a series of verbs. And purpose begins with the word to inspire, to help, to teach, to challenge, to create. And so one is shifting that language. Just that's the first thing. Two, so that's what I'm always looking for in clients. When someone goes to a career coach, they're often like looking for, should I do this job or this job? And I don't get to that until later. I'm much more interested in who you are, what inspires you and motivates you, and the deeper stuff. So one is just kind of everybody out there really understanding what we're looking for are the themes and the action verbs. I am here to ... Then, right? So it's like, then we can backfit what the job titles are. The second thing we have to start with is that searching for purpose is so anxiety producing. We actually know from the research, Larissa Rainey, who is a master's in positive psychology from Penn, like I am, I advised her capstone, her thesis a couple of years ago. And she did a study where she found that people of every age had something called purpose anxiety, where if you are looking for purpose, you feel anxious around it. Well, when our bodies and brains are in anxiety, in stress mode, we're in fight flight mode. And in that place, we can't find our purpose. Okay.
Yeah. We can't create. Yeah.
We can't do anything, right? The brain is not designed to be creative in that space or to be open-minded. And so the first step is really to shift. And instead of being, I've got to find my purpose in that anxious place, I like to shift it instead. We're going to come from a place of curiosity. I want to get curious. What are my strengths? Let me get curious. Who inspires me and what does that tell me about myself? I want to get curious. When have I been happiest and what were the themes? Let me get curious about what I wanted to be as a child and does that tell me anything today? So if we can shift it into curiosity, we shift into a positive mindset. And what we know from the research is that positivity on your brain opens up the prefrontal cortex, makes you more creative, allows you to make more connections. And so that's really our first step. We have to pause. There's nowhere in life, we're not getting this in high school. We're not getting it in college. We've got to pause, step back, and start getting curious about who we are, what lights us up, and what our own strengths are. And
I love that. And I know that people my age and your age, 40s and 50s, are struggling more with this now because we didn't have the tools and the way to think about it this way in our 20s. Part of me wants to focus on that more because I have a son who's 22, a son who's 17, and I've been trying to teach these concepts to them early on so that they wouldn't be like me at 21, like finishing a marketing degree going, I think I want to be a teacher. Why did I do that? Oh, told me I was going to be good at sales. I don't even know what I'm doing.
Right.
And not listening to, and not asking myself the simple questions you were just saying to ask. And I think that you wouldn't have so many clients at 40 and 50 that were miserable or sad or depressed or anxious because they would have started when they're 20 and 30, and then they would have had a better relationship. They would have had better family relationships. They probably would have found their partner sooner. And it's like, the connections are so everything's just intertwined with feeling good about yourself, going towards the things that, like, say, light you up and you're curious about and you wonder about, and just keep continuing on that path towards those things. And you might not find the exact thing, like at 22, you're not going to find the perfect job and have it for 30 years, like you said. But at least if you're going towards something you're curious about and you want to learn more about and that lights you up, how could you not continue to stay in that positive mindset and then attract some of the things that you're so curious about?
Right. Well, I mean, it's so well said, Julie. And I'm so inspired that you are sharing, you're teaching your kids right now, because that's what's so important. Because as kids, I do a lot of corporate training and speaking. And I will always ask, how many of you are parents? Raise your hand. And okay, parents, what do you want for your kids? And they all will say at the same time, to be happy. And then I ask, how many of you learned happiness in school? Like, was that a class for anyone, right? Did anyone have happiness 101? No, what did we have? We had math, we had science, we had, history, all important things. But what were we trying to do in those courses? We were trying to get an A. We were trying to succeed. We were trying to achieve. And what we learned is that if I achieve, I will be happy. And research actually shows that it's not that success or achievement makes us happy, but that happier people achieve more. Because happier people, when you are doing work aligned with your heart, with what lights you up, you are more willing to, be optimistic, to be resilient to challenges. You are more attractive to people in terms of I don't mean partner attractive. I mean, people want to work with you, customers like working with you, other employees like working with you. So we actually do better. We get promoted more. We get better customer evaluations. We get better performance evaluations when we're in a job that makes us happy.
That's awesome to hear. And I have heard you say that before about, successful people. Doesn't go that successful people are happy. It's that happier people are more successful. And it sounds so when you say it to people that haven't learned what we learned or are loving all of this, all of these concepts, people are like, oh, it's not that simple. Now, I'm not saying it's simple. I'm saying if you go towards the things, so are you obviously, go towards the things that bring you that happiness and light you up, and you're going to be more successful because people around you are like, oh yeah, you're believing it. You're passionate about it. You're excited to talk about it. Other people want to be around people that are excited about what they're working on, and
exactly.
They get energy. Yeah.
Right. We all, when you asked what has made me successful, no matter which career, being positive has made me successful. Being positive no matter what. In fact, someone just said to me today that they were so inspired that I've remained positive even throughout. I've had a journey, the last few years with fertility. It has not worked out for me. 2 miscarriages, and IVF stuff that hasn't gone well. And yet I still get on my podcast every week and I talk about how to live a happier life, right? I'm not BSing because I'm totally honest. In all my work, I share with anyone my struggles too. But attitude and choosing happiness is huge. I believe that the field of positive psychology, which is a scientific field, born out of an Ivy League university, it comes down to 2 words. And those 2 words are I choose. I actually wear it on a necklace around my neck every day. And that we really get to look at everything in our life and choose, you get to choose what you do for a living. You get to choose who you spend your time with. You get to choose what you eat, how you treat your body. And we get to choose how we think about the challenges in our life. And you get to choose how you think about whether or not you're happy at work, even if you don't love your work. Right now, choose to be grateful for it. Choose to see where you work as an investor in your future. I'm so grateful I get to take home this paycheck, and this paycheck is going to allow me on the weekends to write my book. Or this paycheck is going to allow me to, spend evenings building my business. Or this paycheck is going to allow me to, spend mornings looking for a job that would be more in alignment. So the more you choose to be happy, I'm not saying stay, I'm saying be happy where you are. Find what's good. Be super intentional about finding the good. What research shows is that when you're telling your brain what's good, your brain says, okay, we'll do more of that and we'll make it even better. So it's really, a huge opportunity for all of us to shift our thinking. And I think the reason a lot of people, because it sounds hokey, say, do what you love and the money will follow. That's missing a piece in there. Do what you love and you will be so excited and passionate about it that you will want to tell everybody you know, and you will work really hard at it, and then the money will follow, right? So there's an inner piece there that makes a huge difference.
I love that you said the word peace, because that's a big theme in my website and in my book that I'm writing right now. Peace and Possibility is going to likely be the title, but peace because I've been drawn to that word and that symbol for years, and I have it in my room. I have the word in my room. I have it in my living room. I have a peace tattoo in my phone that I got at one of the conferences you and I were at this summer. I carried in my wallet so I can look at it every day. And then I have been drawing that peace sign to me for the last month. I've been on this journey to start this business, and I keep running into people with this peace sign. And every time I do it, I'm just like, oh my God, I am intentional about everything I've been doing for the last 6 months, and I'm keep drawing the sign to me, and to me, it's just a sign that says, you're on the right path, Julie. You are exactly where you're meant to be in any moment you are, whether it's exactly what you want or not. I keep seeing these signs that say, this is it. Like, it's just a confirmation for me. And
I have to tell you the funniest thing, Julie. I'm going to take a picture of it for you. I'm wearing a shirt right now that has a peace sign on it. And I only own one shirt that has a peace sign on it.
Oh my
No, I own two, and this is one of the two. So that's, no coincidence there.
Oh my gosh, this stuff, it's been happening to me left and right, and it's like, makes me want to weep, because it's like, so what is happening? And I know what's happening, and you know what's happening. I'm being guided. I'm being drawn to all of the things that I want to do and be and are on purpose for me, because I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be.
Right. Well, this is because, Julie, you have chosen, like when I talk about I choose, right? Like you chose to get on my newsletter list after you heard me on the radio show. You know how many people, I do this too. I hear somebody, I think, oh, I want to know more from them, but probably too much email. Like you made that choice. Then you made the choice when I offered the contest, whatever it was, you made the choice to enter it, right? And then you made the choice. Do you know, because I think I gave out 2 at that same time, you and one other person. The other person never called me back. And I thought, you're getting a free coaching session. Like, I charge quite a pretty penny to, good money to coach, and you're getting this for free. And they didn't take advantage of it. So you chose to do that. And then you chose to do more work, when we did work together. And then you chose to make some shifts in your career. And then you chose, like, you keep choosing and showing up for yourself. And I think what I see most, is that people do have more. Some people say, I don't know what I want. I don't know what I want. And that's why we do the first step of really getting clear on who you are and what you're all about and what would light you up. The second piece, though, I actually find a lot of people deep down do have a sense of at least some things that they'd like to try, and at least some ways that they'd like to leave their mark on the world. And then fear gets in the way.
Yeah.
And that's really the difference between, I think, someone who is happy at work and really living what they feel is their purpose or their dream, and people who are not. We're all capable of it. It's just a matter of, will you let fear get in your way? And that's really, it's fear. There's fear of blank is the block for all of us. And I had that block from the time. Oh, were you going to ask me a question?
No, it's so true. And I think that I'm like, what's different? I've been doing this my whole life. I've always been on a journey to find, I knew I love working, and I wanted to do something that was meaningful and purposeful. And I just kept going towards the things that brought me that. But I think for now, the fear, you brought up the fear, you're right. People, I don't want to call, what's going to happen if you make that phone call? It's going to be uncomfortable. People don't want to be uncomfortable. But for me now, I'm more fearful of not doing this.
Yes.
Because I'm 50 and oh my gosh, I maybe have 15 years left to work. Someone very close to me, my sister-in-law, she died of cancer this summer, and she was 52. And I thought to myself, when all this was happening, she turned 50 2 years ago and had no idea that she had 2 years left to live. Wow. And you think on her 50th birthday, if she had known she had 2 years left to live, she probably would have done a whole lot of stuff differently.
Yes.
And I thought, I'm still on the planet. I have been given this great life, earned, been grateful for this wonderful life that I have. And who am I to not, that I created, but who am I to not continue to create what I want? Do you think the people that have died in their young years or even older have regrets and say, I wish I would have? It's usually they regret things they didn't do, not things they did, right? And I'm like, I have no business wasting any time when people like that are just given a cancer diagnosis, have no time left, and they leave the planet and they have nothing they wanted to accomplish was accomplished.
That's right.
I can't do that. I'm too fearful of that happening.
Yeah. You know what? I'm so glad that you brought that up. It's interesting. I was going to share my story too. And my heart is just with you about your sister-in-law. And so often those are the wake up moments for all of us. We see that in someone else and we say, oh my God, life really is short. My story, but for me, between the time that I knew that my purpose was to empower other people to live their purpose, and I knew that it was to do so as a speaker, as a coach, as a teacher, like I knew that in my soul, until the time that I did it was 8 years, because I was so afraid. I was afraid of failing and being broke. I was afraid of being humiliated, that nobody would hire me or like me. I was afraid that no one would want to listen to me because I thought I had a bad voice. I was afraid that I wouldn't have health insurance. Like I was afraid of a million things, right? And so I stayed paralyzed for 8 years. And the thing that shifted it for me, this story, one day I was walking home from a bad blind date and was laughing about it on the phone with my sister who lived in a different state. And I went to put my key in my condominium door and I suddenly felt hot breath on my neck. And I turned around and was face to face with a young man who pulled a gun on me. And I screamed and I fell to the floor and I'm screaming, please don't hurt me, please don't hurt me. And it was when I was on the ground and the gun now is at my left temple. And I look up and I'm thinking, this is it. I am going to die without ever pursuing my dream. Like with a dream in my heart, I'm going to die.
Yeah.
And so I made myself a promise that moment. If I live, I will pursue my purpose no matter what. And exactly at that moment, the man took my purse and he ran. And that's what did it for me. And before that happened, Julie, I had been on many, many antidepressants. I've been on them at different points in my life. When I had both miscarriages, I went back on them. I don't have an issue with people taking antidepressant, anti-anxiety medication, but I was on so much of it because I wasn't living my purpose. I got shingles at 34, even though I was a marathon runner. Like my body was telling me that something was off, and being robbed at gunpoint was the only thing that got me, was my kick in the butt. Like exactly like you're saying about turning 50 and your sister-in-law, and being robbed at gunpoint was that for me. And, I now will often ask an audience when I'm speaking, if there was a gun pointed at your head, what would you regret never having done?
That's a great question.
Because that is going to tell you, and if you would regret that you don't know what your dreams are, because research is clear. Research has been done with people in their 70s and 80s, and they say, when you look back, what do you regret? And the number one regret is that they didn't pursue dreams. They did not. It's not regretting what they did, it's regretting what they didn't do.
Yeah.
So it's super, this isn't just like hokey talk, there is science behind this. And there's science that we know that when someone is working in what they identify as their calling or their purpose, or something that is in alignment makes them happier, you will be more successful, and then that's going to pour over to every aspect of your life.
For sure. I could talk to you forever. I love our conversations. I'd like to end with a question. It might be simple to answer, it might be hard for you to answer. What do you wish you had learned earlier in your life or your career? Just one, maybe it's 2 lessons, but something that you just wish you had had it at 20 or 30 or something. I mean, obviously you wish you would have done this earlier, before gunpoint, but.
Yeah, that's really the biggest. I wish I had learned earlier that I would be more successful doing what I loved and being my full true self than not.
Yeah.
Because it has taken a lot of work. Like, I'm not going to just say, do what you love and the money follows. Like I said, insert there, lots of work.
Yeah.
But I make double what I made in corporate now. Right? Yeah. So, and I know it's not all about money, but the point is I was so afraid for 8 years. It's like, well, what was I so afraid of? So I really wish that I had known that I could listen to my heart and that success was on the other side. And I also really wish, I want everyone out there to know, you don't have to know. There isn't like you don't have to know right now. A big piece of it is what you said earlier, Julie. feel into the questions that I was asking earlier, and then just follow that curiosity and experiment and play and let it be one step into another. Play, let your career be play, and you'll be so much happier.
Amen. Well said. Well said. Yes, yes. And then if you can't figure it out, get some help.
Yes, exactly.
Get some help, because why struggle for 10 years? I wish I would have talked to you 5 years before that, or, even 10 years. I was happy with what I was doing, but I wasn't being lit up like I am now.
Right.
And I didn't know I knew there was therapy, and I've had lots of that, but I wasn't, I knew there were career coaches, purpose coach. I just didn't know everything that was out there, the resources and tools you can use, people that have so much, information about helping you and wanting to help you. Get it instead of struggling. You still have to do the work, but at least you can have some insight that that can get you there faster, right?
Someone who gives you tools, because we don't know the tools. We're not given them, we're not given all the questions and the surveys and that's not a class in school. It should be, but it's not a class in school for most people.
Yes.
And we don't typically take time. We're all so busy. I have this new thing where I'm thinking lately about being busy and bored at the same time, because I think a lot of people are busy and yet really bored with their lives. But we're so busy, we're not taking a step back. And so we do need help. It's interesting. I needed help. The first thing I needed to do to quote unquote figure out my purpose was to take a class and really start diving into a lot of these questions and my values and my strengths and all that kind of thing. And then when I was feeling stuck and not moving forward, I saw a friend of mine at work was rocking it out. I'm like, well, what are you doing? And she said, well, I have this coach. And I had this is a long time ago. I didn't even know what coaches were. And when he told me what he did and I started working with him, I was at first a little bit like, I can't spend money on myself. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. And so I said no. And then a month later, I hadn't made any progress, right? It's like I wasn't doing anything, and I really needed, so I ended up hiring him, and I really needed someone who was going to help me carve out a path, who was going to help me get clear on who I am, and who was going to hold me accountable to go do it. And so I love your advice, Julie. It's spot on.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Thank you for talking with me today. Thank you for giving people insight into how they can be happy where they're working, and if they're not, how they can get there another way. I so appreciate your time, and thank you so much. And I love talking to you. And if you want to find more about Carin Rockind, Carin, where can they go to find out more about you? And
yeah, first of all, thank you, Julie. It's been such an honor and a pleasure, and to see where you are now just lights me up and warms my heart. It's why I do what I do. So anyone out there, you can find me at PurposeGirl.com. PurposeGirl is one word, PurposeGirl.com. And there you can find the PurposeGirl podcast. I also have a Living on Purpose guide that will start asking you these questions totally for free. So it's a workbook totally for free on the website that you can get there.
I will also tell you guys that you don't really say it this way, Carin, but I think you're a great writer. And I love reading your newsletters, and subscribe to the newsletters, because I think you're a great writer, and you never use that in your tagline when you say all the things that you do. You're really good at it.
Oh my gosh, you're going to make me cry. Oh my gosh, thank you.
I probably told you a couple years ago, I'm like, you should be writing all of this stuff and have a book. I know that's one of your dreams. And
it is. It's something I'm always working on.
Yes. And you're really good at it. And so I love getting your newsletters, and I think I send them to my friends and tell them to sign up, and I forward things that I think will be helpful to them. But I think just even reading one thing, if everyone has lots of emails, but when you're reading those newsletters from you, they're always inspiring. You always have a good tip or a good question or something to consider that maybe someone hasn't considered before, or maybe it's just a good reminder. Yeah. But those are very valuable. So
thank you for saying
take a look at those, my audience, when you can.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much, Carin. It's been a joy talking to you.
It's been a joy too, Julie. Thank you. And I cannot wait to see where this goes.
Thank you. Thanks for listening. If you love this content, please rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts or whichever platform you found us on. You can get all my social media links in the description below. Help us keep the momentum going so that every person can live their lives happily, doing work they love.